spiritual world variety is there. It's not that there is no variety, because if by making everything as one, then there is no variety. Then
Mm.
where is the relationship? The Mayavadis, they want to avoid serving the Lord. So because they want to Mayavadir hoye Krishna Raparadi, because they want to avoid serving the Lord. So that's why they deny that there is any Lord has any personality. If there is no personality, where will you render service? Like Lord, if you assume as a universal form of the Lord, if you have to dress him, how
Yeah,
many millions of clothes you need, right? But
yeah,
now Lord says, no, no, I have this form, Sham Sundara form. You make the dressing for the deity. So you can serve them, right? You can relate to them. So God, which is unlimited, understand this concept. God is unlimited, but he is not material, but he takes material like form. Like Krishna appears in the form of the wood, or like Jagannath is made from the wood, right? Or in the form of a stone. So Krishna appears in that form so that we can relate with Krishna. But does not mean that Krishna comes under illusion when he takes shelter of his energy, because like a stone or a wood is his energy. So in a sense, he is becoming dependent on the energy, but that's not the true. It's Krishna's energy. Krishna can use his energy the way he wants. So, for example, I can move my hand I want like this, or I can move it down. It is, up to me,
yeah,
as long as Krishna allows me to do that.
yeah.
I am not supremely independent. Krishna is supremely independent.
And if everything, if we say that everything is emanating from Krishna, the
Hmm.
spiritual effulgence which we are talking about, which we term as Brahma Jyoti, it is also emitted from him. And
Yes.
if Krishna exists all the time, then Brahma Jyoti should also exist, right?
Yeah,
And
Brahma Jyoti is existing all the time.
the only difference, what we see in terms of liberation, who, I mean, we as devotees, we don't look up for Brahma Jyoti. We look up for the higher salvation more than this. But
Right.
whereas a few people who worship, let's say worship, and they want to merge into Brahma Jyoti. So there is again a sort of liberation again between them. As you said, I still remember you were talking about the liberation of Shishupal and all the other people who cannot actually engage themselves in the service of Krishna. They go into the effulgence. So I'm just trying to understand the difference between. So the difference is only in between the liberation of the devotees, right, Prabhu?
Yeah. So there are
Okay.
five kinds of liberations,
Yeah.
as explained in the scriptures.
Yes, yes, you have explained before
Yeah.
also.
So
Yeah.
Can
only
you
one.
repeat those five again for benefit of everyone?
Okay.
Yeah.
So those are Salukya. You go to the same planet as the Lord. Sarupya. You get the same form as the form of the Lord. So in the Vaikuntha planet, Lord has 400 forms. So you also get the 400 forms. But the difference is Lord has a Kaustubha jewel and Srivastava mark on his chest. You don't have. Plus he is Lord and you are servant. So how many we did? Sarupya, Salokya, and Sayujya. Sayujya is the liberation which is like merging into the body of the Lord. And then Samipya, you stay close to the Lord. And then Shrashti, you get the same opulences as the Lord. So these are five kind of liberation, but only the Salujya, which is merging into the form of the Lord, is not aspired by the devotees. The other four are, but those who are devotees, even higher stage, they don't even care for mukti, because mukti is standing in the front of the devotee's house with a folded hand. What can I do for you? Like Birla Mangal Thakur, one of the great saint, he prayed that I like mukti is standing at my doorstep. I don't want mukti. So yeah. Because mukti bhukti kami shakal asanta, Krishna bhakta nishkama ataiva shanta. So if you have some desire, like if you want to desire bhukti means sense gratification, you want mukti means liberation. Bhukti, mukti, kami. They are kami. They are desirous of something, right? Mukti, why you need mukti? Because you are suffering here. You don't want suffering, so get out of the suffering. So I want to liberate myself from this suffering. This birth, death, old age is a problem. But for devotee, there is no problem because he does not have any desire. He does not think he is body. So he's already liberated, right? When there is deha samriti nahi yaar, like if you don't have the remembrance that you are this body, then where is the binding? The bonding comes When you consider yourself as this body, when then you fall into ignorance, and then there is this binding. But when you does not consider yourself as a body, you are situated in the platform of soul, then you are already liberated even in this body. That's why they say uh, uh, there are pure devotees even within this body, they are liberated. There is no difference between their body and soul. So that's why we don't burn the body of the pure devotees of the Lord. We have a samadhi where their body is preserved with certain chemicals, and then we go there and seek blessings from that.
Yeah. That was very nicely explained, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Hare
very much.
Krishna.
So are does do you have more question, or anybody else has a question, or can we
For now,
start?
Prabhu. Thank you.
Oh, so that's good. Questions are always need to be clarified.
Prabhu, there is one question which I received on WhatsApp. This is a question from 8-year-old kid who is listening along with his father. So he's saying, why
Uh-huh.
is Lord Krishna's color showing as blue?
Mhm. Which color he like?
I
Which
don't know.
color you want Lord to be? Lord can come in any color you want. Like in Satyuga, he come as as Durga avatar is white color. Then there is another color Krishna takes, which is the red color Rakta. Then another color he takes is Pita, yellow color, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then the Krishna is a Shama or black color or bluish black that you are saying. So Krishna take many different colors. Like Lord Ram, he has a different color, right? So which color you like, you choose, and Krishna can appear in that form. Krishna reciprocate according to the mood of the devotee. So accordingly, you reciprocate with the form of the Lord in particular color,
So what's
and
his original identity in spiritual world? How does it look? How does he look there?
Krishna original color, that is Sham Sundar form. Original color is bluish color, but there is not the blue that you find here. The blue which is closest to the color of the Krishna is the neck of the peacock. But that's closest does not mean Krishna has that same blue color. That blue tinge you won't find it, because this blue, black, whatever we are saying, it's coming from RGB pattern, right? So it's not from mixing of those RGB. Krishna has his original color, which is closest to, you can say, the neck of the peacock or the rain-bearing uh, cloud, like very light color. Krishna is Shama, but he is still beautiful. Generally, somebody is Sham, he is not he is not Sundar. But Krishna is both Sham and Sundar. That's why he's Sham Sundar, right? Krishna is Kamala. Sometime here the people they have their child is born blind and they gave him Kamal Lochan. No, Krishna is not like that. So whenever Krishna is referred like his eyes are lotus eyes, so lotus is the closest in our experience that we can understand Krishna's form. So that's why these different examples are given. But yeah, the original color is bluish.
Another question, same from same kid, 8 years old. What happens to people after death?
What happens to people after that? That's $1 million question. And this is this is the whole question. Like this is the whole question on which the Vedas revolve. The first aphorism of Veda is Athato Brahma Jigyasa, right? That's why you should inquire. Why? Because what will happen? Inquire about what? Like what will happen next, right? By next, in a sense, the right now you are in the material, you can say, conception. But then what is next? What will happen when you give up this body? When you give up this body, you get another body, or you can be liberated. You get no body. But it depends what are your actions, what kind of actions you perform. So if you and what was your thinking when you leave the body at the time? Antkale chamame smaranukto kalevaram. So when you are kalevaram means this body. When you are giving it up this body, thinking of what is your thought process at the time of giving up your body, you can get that body. For example, Bharat Maharaj, he was a self-realized soul. He was at the Bhava platform, but he developed in his next life. Sorry, in that very life, he developed attraction for a small baby deer And when he was dying, he was thinking of the small baby deer. So next life he became take the birth as a deer. And then he was going to the sages' houses, listening from them, and then next life he taken birth as a Jad Bharat. So like that, there different examples are there in the scriptures. Like what is our thought process and what are our actions. Similarly, is said about Jawaharlal Nehru. Though he wanted to, he was very much liking the Western culture, Western world, but his actions were, I mean, this can be a little controversial. I will not say, but one of the astrologer predicted that he became dog in his next life. So you can become anything. Like one, I can become cat, dog, or any of the insect. There are 84 million species of life according to our actions. But when we do such actions, which is the devotional service, then we can get out of this cycle and liberate ourselves and develop bhakti. If we have bhakti and love for Lord, then we can relate with Krishna, and then there is no more this giving up of body or what is next. There is no more next there. There is no more taking birth, no more dying, because that's the spiritual world. This material world, you have to take birth. If you take birth, you have to die. If you take birth, you have to suffer. The body, the material body has to go through six changes. Spiritual soul does not go through these six changes. So spiritual world does not go through these six changes. Spiritual world is never created, never destroyed. There is no need of light. There is no need of moon or sun over there. Everything is eternal. So yeah, it depends what you want. Actually, what you want. According to that, you will have your next life. If you want, like if somebody without any discrimination, they can eat anything and everything, then they get the body of the pig. People, they don't want to dress themselves nicely, they get the body of the tree. Somebody wants to eat voraciously, he get the body of elephant. So it depend upon your action and your thought process. Okay, so, but soul, as a spirit soul, you never die, but you change the body. So the journey of the soul continues, because soul is eternal. Why it is eternal? Because it's energy of the Lord, and it was never created. So if it is never created, never is destroyed, eternally existing. Okay, is that
Yes.
child there, or he's not there? I'm not sure.
Let me see. Is it this is somebody named Keshav? Keshav? I don't see it today.
Okay, so maybe he can refer, if you're recording it, he can
Yeah, yeah,
refer to the recording.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so before I start, anyone for the first time today? All right. So already I think we passed 20 minutes or 23 minutes for questions. Now let's go to our verse, the chapter 2, verse 13. So I will read this. Dehino asmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantar praptir dhiras tatrna muhyati. Translation: as the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Purport: I'll ask someone to read it. Shikha. Shikha is Shama Mohini Mataji or someone else? Can you please read the purport?
I believe she is only listening. She is not.
Okay. Praveen, you want to read?
Prabhu?
Oh, Samir want to read. Okay, yes, please.
Okay. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, and soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a changes. Purport. Since every living entity is an individual soul, each is changing his body every moment, manifesting sometimes as a child, sometimes as a youth, and sometimes as an old man. Yet the same spirit soul is sorry. Yet the same spirit soul is there and does not undergo any changes. This individual soul finally changed the body at death and transmigrates to another body. And since it is sure to have another body in the next birth, either material or spiritual, there was no cause for lamentation by Arjuna on account of death, neither for Bhisma nor for Drona, for whom he was so much concerned. Rather, he should rejoice for their changing body from old to new one, thereby rejuvenating their energy. Such changes of body account for variety of enjoyment or suffering, according to one's work in life. So Bhisma and Drona, being noble soul, were surely going to have spiritual body in the next life, or at least life in heavenly bodies for superior enjoyment for material existence. So, in either case, there was no cause of lamentation. Any man who has perfect knowledge of constitution of the individual soul, the super soul and nature, both material and spiritual, is called a dhira, or a most sober man. Such a man is never deluded by the changes of bodies. The Mayavadi theory of one says of the spirit soul cannot be eternal on the ground that the spirit soul cannot be cut into pieces as fragmental portions. Such cutting into different individual souls would make the supreme clavable or changeable against the principle of the supreme soul being unchangeable. As confirmed, as confirmed in the Gita, the fragmental portion of the supreme exists internally, Sanatana, and are all called Kasra. That is, they have a tendency to fall down into material nature. These fragmental portions are eternally so, and even after liberation, the individual soul remains the same fragmental. But once liberated, he lives an eternal life in bliss and knowledge with the personality of Godhead. The theory of reflection can be applied to the supersoul who is present in each and every individual body and is known as a Paramatma. He is different from the individual living entity. When the sky is reflected in water, the reflection present both the sun and the moon and the star also. The stars can be compared to the living entity and the sun or the moon to the Supreme Lord. The individual fragmental spirit soul is represented by Arjuna, and the Supreme Soul is the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. They are not on the same level as it will be apparent in the beginning of the fourth chapter. If Arjuna is on the same level with Krishna and Krishna is not superior to Arjuna, then their relationship of instructor and instructed become meaningless. If both of them deluded by the illusory energy Maya, then there is no need of one being the instructor and the other the instructed. Such instruction would be useless because in the clutches of Maya, no one can be an authoritative instructor. Under the circumstances, it is admitted that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord, superior in position to the living entity Arjuna, who is a forgetful soul deluded by Maya. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, thank you. So, Prabhu, can you bring my presentation slide 31? So while you opening up, I'll give a background. This verse is very, very important verse. Dehino asmin yatha dehe kaumaram yaunam jara tatha dehantar praptis dhiras tatrana muhyati. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, where is that verse? The soul similarly passes in this body from to another body. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. So last week we were talking about verse 12, where Krishna actually from 11th chapter only, 11th verse only, Krishna started to speak in this verse. And first word Krishna used was like, you're speaking like Arya, but you're actually an Arya. You're talking like a learned, but actually you're not a learned man, because one who is learned does not lament for something which is temporary, which is body. And then in this particular verse, Krishna is laying the foundation for the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is talking about further the eternity of the soul. Like in the previous verse, Natvivaham Jatu Nasam, Natvaneme Janadipa. Krishna talk about three persons, as I was saying, and talk how they existed in the past, how they were present in front of him, and how they will continue to exist. Here Krishna is further explaining, Dehino Asmin Yatha Dehe. So Deha means Dehino means the body. Dehi means one who lives within the body or the soul. And this Dehi, when it lives in the body is going changing from boyhood to youth to old age, right? And then finally there is a death. But the Dehi is not undergoing any change. Dehi is still same. It's the same person. Like when you're born as a child, you have a different body than when you are grown up, 30 years old adult or 60 years old man. So you have a different body, but as a person you are the same. Someone who has seen you when you are a child and he meets you after 30 years may not recognize you, but you know as a person you are still same, Rahul, Sham, or whatever, but your body is changed. You are yourself seeing this, how many bodies you are changing from your baby body to, you know, child body to youth body to adult body, then old body, and then you yourself have this experience how this soul is experiencing this change of different bodies. And also the soul is also influenced by the body in which it resides. So as the body is growing, the consciousness of soul is affected by the conditioning in which it is placed. So when you have a child body, your thought process is different because you are influenced by the conditioning or covering around you. Covering of Krishna explained, Bhumerapu Anal Vayu Khammano Buddhir Ankar Evacha. Like these eight energies, Krishna explained, Bhumir Apo Anal Vayu, the five building blocks of life. Then Man, Buddhi, and Ahankar. These things are influencing your consciousness, your thought process. And as you become youth, it's getting changed. But you know, as an individual, you are the same person. So that's the very, very important verse, which clearly talks about the reincarnation. That reincarnation is true. People say, what happened when I die? Well, you still continue to exist as you are existing in this body. You have already died. Like your child body is died. Now you have youth body. It will die. You get the old body. And according to science also, all the cells in our body, the body is made up of cells. So they change after, I forgot, 1 year or 2 years, they completely change. So if body is made up of cell and cells are getting changed in a certain number of time frame, so you are dying that many times within this same body. So you have this experience of reincarnation. So let's look, and this theme theme for this verse is talking about dhira. It was mentioned in the purport how dhira is a person who is not bewildered by this change. When this change is happening either from boy to youth or from old age, or when you completely change the body. It's like, you know, it's like in today's context, you can understand you have a computer, right? You have different things inside the computer. You have a motherboard, processor, you have other things. I'm not that much IT oriented, but there are so many parts within the computer. And then if there is some problem, you change one part, you change other part. But when whole computer die, then you change the computer, right? Or another example I give you, as a body, you are living in a house, right? So if you are in a very old house, you'll try to repair it, keep repairing it, as long as you can fix it, make it livable. But when the house become completely uninhabitable, then you have to change the house. You go to different house. That does not mean that you are died when the house is died. You still continue to exist. In the same way, the body is dying. That does not mean that you are die. You continue to exist. This is the point Krishna is making here. So incarnation is coming into the flesh, right? Coming into the body. Flesh means the body. And reincarnation means to again come into the material world. So reincarnation happen, right? Reincarnation happen, as I was explaining to someone's question, what happened after birth. So it's not myth. There are two kinds of reincarnation happening. One is internal reincarnation and another is external reincarnation. Internal means your body is changing, right? And external body is changing gradually and subtly, which you cannot make out. And external is a sudden and a drastic change, very much visible, like Ram has passed away, but the Ram body is lying there. So whether the body is changing partially, as I was saying, from baby body to youth body, or it changes completely, when it completely altogether changes the body, take the different body, but the dehi or the soul continues to exist. So here in this purport, Prabhupada is mentioning the key point, like, why should Arjuna lament, right? If he's thinking that Bhishma and Drona will die, but they will get the fresh bodies, right? Right now they are old, so they will get the fresh body. Or they may go to heavenly planets, right? If the Kshatriyas, they fight in the war and they die fighting, then they go to heavenly planets. And another reason for that confirmation is Krishna, the religious personified, is standing in front of them. They are dying in front of Krishna, right? What is glorious death it is when you die in front of Krishna, right? Everybody wants to die when Krishna is there, right? Bhishma was praying for that death when he was lying on his deathbed. And he was praying, oh my, oh my mind, oh my intelligence, be fixed in the thoughts of Krishna. And then Krishna was there in front of him. But all does not have that luxury to pass the body like Bhishma. Like, I cannot choose my time of leaving the body, right? This is happening under the Deva Netrena. This is happening under the supreme intelligence. And then Prabhupada, like I was saying, the Dhira, one who is seeing this thing is happening, these changes are happening, he is not bewildered by this change. That Krishna explains in the next verse. Matra sparshastu konteya, shito ushna sukh dukkha, agama paino anitya tam titikshva bharata. So one Bharata, that these things are happening, these are because of the sensory perception, the perception of hot and cold, good and bad, pleasure or pain. This is due to bodily uh, conception. So don't be bewildered by this. You tolerate this. And when we say toleration, uh, tolerance tolerance means you see this thing is happening, these changes are happening, but your priorities, you don't change. Your priorities still remain fixed. Like, my priority is to perform the devotional service. Either I get pain or I get pleasure, but my priority stays fixed. I should not be affected by the conditioning. Either I'm getting good or bad. Will not curse Krishna why you are giving me bad. So our priority has to be fixed. That's what it means, tolerate. So you are not affected by that conditioning, because that conditioning is for the body, not for the soul. And you are a soul, you are different from the body, so you should not be affected by those conditioning which are affecting the body. Very, very important point. Very, very important point here. And another Prabhupada, like in previous verse, he was refuting Mayavad. Here also he is refuting the theory of oneness. Now, how spirit soul cannot become one with the supreme soul. I already explained in my questions, so maybe we can go fast through it. And the one of the key points maybe we can take here is spirit soul is fallible, whereas Krishna is infallible. So fragmental portion, they exist, but they are shara. The shara word is used. Shara means which can fall, and akshara means which cannot fall. There are many meanings of Shara and Akshara, but here in this context, the meaning of Shara is fallible and Akshara is infallible. So Shara is used for the spirit soul. Spirit soul is fallible because being limited in quantity does not have as much strength, infinite, unlimited strength as Krishna. So it can be fallen. It can be prone to the conditioning around it. It can be prone to, like, for example, I am in the body of a man, so I'm prone to conditioning to think like a man or to think like an Indian or whatever you can say. I'm conditioned by this body. That, but Krishna is not conditioned when he takes any particular body. When Krishna takes the body of a Yashoda Nandan or Devki Nandan, he is not conditioned to think like we are conditioned, because Krishna is not taking that body under the jurisdiction of Maya. But whereas we are provided this body, Jantra Rudhani Maya, is provided by the Maya, by the illusory energy of the Lord. And we are acting in this body by the three modes of material nature according to our desires, right? According to our desire to enjoy, we associate with three modes, and according to that, we perform different actions. But Krishna is not influenced by this. Krishna is not affected by this. Why? Because Krishna is not Mayadeen, Krishna is Mayadish. He is the master of the Maya. He is not controlled by Maya, he is controlling the Maya. So that's another point. And then the merging, I think we already talked that merging is in the purpose, but there is no merging. And then this spirit soul versus super soul, theory of reflection. Yeah, this is very important point also Prabhupada mentioned. So when there is a reflection in the pond at the night, you can see the moon and the star and the sun. It's not that uh, this reflection is illusory, right? When you see, someone can say the shadow is, it's a shadow, it's not real. But when there is a shadow, there has to be reality. So there is a reality, that's why there is a shadow. Person is standing straight is reflected in the water as standing opposite, but reality is there, that's why there is this reflection. So this reflection, Mayavad, what they say is, now we are in illusion, so we are separated, like we looks different. But when we come out of this illusion, which is means the reflection here, then we become one. But we does not become one. So this theory of reflection is refuted in that sense. Because when these things are looking individually differently in the reflection, they are individually different when they are in reality also. Like sun and moon are individually also there. It's not that when you get out of the reflection, sun become moon, moon become sun, and all, and stars become sun, moon, everything become ones. No, there is nothing like that. And then another point at the end, Prabhupada says that soul is never equal to super soul. That's one is Anu, one is Vibhu. Anu means small, Vibhu means great or unlimited, and that we can understand based on like this theory of reflection as we saw, and also this point we are earlier also mentioned how if both are on the same position like Krishna and Arjuna, then what is the point of Krishna instructing Arjuna? Right? Then all the meaning of Bhagavad Gita is useless. So Krishna has to be Akshara, infallible, infallible in his knowledge, infallible in his existence, infallible in his individuality. In every sense, he is Akshara. He is not. He is infallible. Achyuta. Another name used is Achyuta. Because Krishna is supreme personality of Godhead and Arjuna is soul in illusion. So this is the key points from this verse. So let's go to verse 2.14 now. Now, while 2.14 is being opened up, I know we can go faster on these verse. We can go much more longer also on these verse. I'm not sure how is this space. Like, are we covering too many verses or we are covering too little of the verses? Are we okay? Like, is it clear? Because I don't want to keep speaking and then you are not getting it, or you are thinking it's too boring. I know everything.
The pace is good.
This is good. Okay. So let maintain the pace. So we try to cover some verses today. 2.14 Matra Sparshashtu Konteya Shitoshna Sukha Dukkada Agama Paino Nitya Tam Titikshva Bharata. Again, very, very important verse. Like translation, O son of Kunti, the non permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer season. They arise from sense perception or sign of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Wow. Tolerance is a very important quality that Krishna is talking about here. Let's read the purport. I'll ask maybe this time Lakshmi Mataji to read it, if you like to, please.
Prabhu. Thank you. Uh, in the proper discharge of duty, one has to learn to tolerate non permanent appearances and disappearance of happiness and distress. According to Vedic injunction, one has to take his bath early in the morning, even during the month of Magha, January to February. It is very cold at that time, but in spite of that, a man who abides by the religious principles does not hesitate to take his bath. Similarly, a woman does not hesitate to cook in the kitchen in the months of May and June, the hottest part of the summer season. One has to execute his duty in spite of his climatic inconveniences. Similarly, to fight is the religious principle of the Kshatriyas, and although one has to fight with some friend or relative, one should not deviate from his prescribed duty. One has to follow the prescribed rules and regulations of religious principles in order to rise up to the platform of knowledge. Because by knowledge and devotion, only one can liberate himself from the clutches of Maya illusion. The two different names of address given to Arjuna are also significant. To address him as Kaunteya, this signifies his great blood relations from his mother's side, and to address him as Bharata signifies his greatness from his father's side. From both sides, he is supposed to have a great heritage. A great heritage brings great responsibility in the matter of proper discharge of duties. Therefore, he cannot avoid fighting. Such a beautiful purport. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah. O son of Kunti, the non permanent appearance of happiness and distress, and their disappearance in due course, are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer season. They arise from sense perception, O sign of Bharata. One must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So, Krishna here is talking about tolerating the dualities. In the relative world, there are dualities. There are, and when one is confronted with such dualities, one should not abandon one religious duties due to on the basis of bodily convenience or inconvenience or bodily transformations. Like we heard, body go through six transformation. When those six transformations are happening, one should not be one should not abandon one religious duty. One should stay fixed in his duties because this duality is the nature of this world. You are in the relative world, you will have duality of goodness, badness, laziness. What is the opposite of lazy? Active. Yeah, lazy, active. So these dualities are there in this world. Heat and cold, like, dislike. I like this, I don't like that. These things will be there. I like heat, I like cold. So Krishna is saying these are non-permanent. They are not permanent. That what you are that you will always keep feeling the cold only. The summer also will come, right? And it's not that always there will be summer. The winter will also come. So these things are as if these experiences are experience of the body. So as a sober person, one should learn to tolerate them and should not be bewildered in performing his religious duty. That's very very important. Religious duty, because Krishna is reminding Arjuna that as a Kshatriya, your religious duty is to fight for protecting the religion. So it does not mean that now you think that you will have bodily inconvenience by killing your relatives, right? So you should not do your duty. You still have to do your duty. You have to exert. There will be bodily inconvenience due to that also, but still you have to do that. That's your duty. And then you may also suffer because by their so-called, you will make them to change their bodies. So there is attachment to the body. So you have to suffer them, but you still tolerate them. That's what Krishna is saying, and he's like, one has to tolerate without being disturbed. That's very, very important. Prabhupada very nicely translate. One has learned to tolerate them without being disturbed. But one is you are tolerating it, but you are getting very, very disturbed. Now you cannot do anything. I'm tolerating it, but let me get my time and I'll dekh lunga tere ko, like I'll see you. No, not like that way. You are not disturbed when you are tolerating these dualities. You are not affected psychologically, mentally in executing your duties, your dharma. That's what Krishna is wanting Arjuna to do. Krishna is addressing Arjuna by beautiful names. Kaunteya. Kaunteya means the son of Kunti. Bharata. Bharata is from his father's side, reminding him his uh, parental, his fatherly side, because King Bharata was one of his grandfathers. And then Kaunteya is son of Mother Kunti. And on what basis you have to tolerate dualities? In knowledge, when you are tolerating these dualities without being illusioned. Why you get illusioned? Because when you think you are this body, and when you think you are this body, then you are affected by the sense perception happening through this body. But when you are situated in the knowledge of the soul, then you disassociate yourself from the body, and in that knowledge you can tolerate these dualities. And why you are tolerating these dualities? For higher goal. Because focus is what? Focus is you want to get liberation here. Example, and then Prabhupada in the example mentioned, like give some of the examples how early morning taking bath is one of the tolerance. But if you are doing that tapasya, taking early morning in the bath for self realization, or for pleasing spiritual master, or rendering any deity worship in the temple, then that's very pleasing, right? Or for in general also, taking bath is very in early morning is very, very refreshing. Maga means the winter season, so that is austerity. Or cooking in the summer season, that's another austerity in India. So, so so here, like I already mentioned this, you have to fight for religion, even if your relatives are involved, even if Bhishma is involved, Drona is involved, and your brothers are involved, but still you have to fight. Another example given was for austerities is of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You know how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, at the age of 25 years, he took the sannyas. It is explained in the Chaitanya Charitamrita how beautiful Lord was, how he had very beautiful long hairs, and how his wife was so beautiful, like she is goddess of fortune himself. To leave that chaste and beautiful wife and loving mother, it's very difficult, it's impossible, especially at that young age. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did that. Tyaktva shudushchajam surepshita raja lakshmi dharmishta arya vatsam yadagadharanyam. So Tyaktva sudushtyaja surepshita raja lakshmi. So she was like, Raj Lakshmi means the goddess of the kings, right? So she was even desired by the heavenly kings, like demigods. Surepshita. Ipshita means desired. Sura means the demigods. So he gave up that Lakshmi. Dharmisya Arya Vachsam to propagate the dharma, the yoga dharma of Sankirtan. Anyhow, we'll not go more to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because then I can go on that path. I want to stay focused on this verse. So here, tolerance, when Krishna is saying tolerance does not mean impotence. It's not that any anyaya, what is anyaya? Injustice is happening and you are capable of protecting that injustice, then you tolerate that. No, you don't tolerate that time. If you are capable of stopping that injustice, you should not tolerate that time. So injustice is sorry, tolerance is not impotence, is not an excuse to become impotent. So generally these days there is this term very much widely used as religious tolerance. So there is nothing like religious tolerance or that tolerance. Tolerance is, according to Bhagavad Gita, the tolerance is, but religious tolerance is also a kind of tolerance. But according to Gita, the tolerance is we allow the things to happen in a way that they happen, but we keep our priorities fixed. Again, these dualities will come,
Absolutely.
that
Huh.
they not affect you,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
your priorities you keep fixed. So that's the tolerance, right? Whether there is heat and cold, happiness and distress, let them come and go. Become dhira. Similarly, other things will come and go. We don't have to be carried by them, but we have to stay focused. So tolerance is a vigilance. Tolerance is a vigilance by which you can the focus the things that are important for us. What is important for us is to follow dharma. Okay. So tolerance is you're vigilant and you have focus on following the important thing, prioritizing the things which will help you approach closer toward the God, and prioritize in such a way that you give less focus to those things that distract you away from the God. So that's the practical learning. Let's see the next slide. What does it says about practical application. So prescribed duties are essential for spiritual advancement. Like all Krishna says, Chaturvarnam Maya system, Gunakarma Vibhagasa. This four varnas and four ashramas, they are created by me. Krishna has created these four varnas and four ashramas. Varna are uh, like Kshatriya, Brahmana, Shudra, Vaishyas. They have different duties when they follow, when a Kshatriya act as a Kshatriya, not just Kshatriya on the name only. He is Kshatriya by action. Brahmana is by action, by the qualities, not just by name or just by being taken in the birth of a Brahman family. When Brahmana is acting on the platform of the Brahmana, or Kshatriya is acting following his Kshatriya dharma, Vaishya is following his Vaishya dharma, which is cow protection, right? Krishi Goraksha Vanijya. Krishi means farming. Goraksha means protecting the cows, and Vanijya means the uh, business, trading. And he is following his dharma according to the Vedic scriptures, then they help in spiritual advancement. That's the practical thing. And these material desires, when you fulfill them in a regulated way, like there is a regulator, it controls. Similarly, in the car, we have a governor. It control how much amount of fuel to be sent. In airplanes, we have that also. We don't want to send too much fuel. So this too much we don't want to feed our senses too much of sense gratification, because that will delude us, our consciousness, takes us away from our purpose. Because we have to be focused. So this has, even if you want to do, you have some material desires, you want them to be fulfilled. So it has to be done in a regulated way. And then gradually and slowly you can detach from the bodily conception of life, which is the biggest problem, biggest disease. Karpanya dosha, as we karpanya dosho pahata svava. Pichhami tvam dharma sammudha cheta. So we have to get out this kripaness. What is this kripana? Is being attached to the body or things which are related to the body. You're not willing to give up things. You have to become Brahmana. Brahmana means liberal. So when the time of Lord Rama, the Lord Ram gave all his kingdom to the Brahmanas, and Brahmana they gave him back to the Lord Ram, that now you rule on our behalf. Brahmanas were detached. They were not attached to money. When Brahmana fall, everything fall down. Anyhow, so this is more or less the essence of this verse. Let's go to verse 15. Okay. Yam hi yanti te purusham purusha rishabha sama dukkha sukham dhiram samrittatvaya kalpate. O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. Purport.
Oh,
I
Malini
would
wants.
like to read.
Yes, please.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Anyone
Uh,
who is steady in his determination for the advanced stage of spiritual realization and can equally tolerate the onslaughts of distress and happiness is certainly a person eligible for liberation. In the Varna Ashrama institution, the fourth stage of life, namely the renounced order sannyasa, is a painstaking situation. But one who is serious about making his life perfect surely adopts the sannyasa order of life in spite of all difficulties. The difficulties usually arise from having to sever family relationship to give up the connection of wife and children. But if anyone is able to tolerate such difficulties, surely his path to spiritual realization is complete. Similarly, in Arjuna's discharge of duties as a Kshatriya, he is advised to persevere even if it is difficult to fight with his family members or similarly beloved persons. Lord Chaitanya took sannyasa at the age of 24, and his dependents, young wives as well as old mother, had no one else to look after them. Yet, for a higher cause, he took sannyasa and was steady in the discharge of higher duties. That is the way of achieving liberation from material bondage.
Yeah, very nice. O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. So Krishna uses the word Rishabha, best among the men. Purusha Rishabha, right? Purusham Purusha Rishabha. So you are the best among the men, Arjuna. And what he's saying, you should not be disturbed by happiness and distress and steady in both happiness and distress. So focus should be on higher goal. And what is the higher goal? Of liberation by overcoming the dualities of happiness and distress. Again, so can you bring my slide? Yeah, okay, you already bought it. So we decide which road to take, not based on appearance of the road, but by the destination. Suppose I want to go from or Brampton to Montreal. I choose a road, right, that takes me to the destination. It's not that if that road is not good, I choose the other road which is going in opposite direction to say uh, Detroit, because that road is rosy and good. I want to take that. No, you don't decide like that. You have to decide based on the destination. So don't be distracted by these temporary changes of the body. It's not that this thing gives me pleasure and pain, but if it is this is giving me pleasure, so I accept it. But if it is distracting me for from my higher purpose, then I should not take those pleasures, because they don't lead to the glory of the soul, but the degradation of the soul. A person who is uh, not disturbed by by these choices that he has in terms of good or bad, like or dislike, will attain the eternal existence here, which is the, like I said, higher destination. And what is that eternity will be described in the verse 16. But let's look here. So here, like, more or less, I think we covered this point, but these example of Lord Chaitanya also I explained, like how for the higher purpose, how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for the higher purpose, he took the sannyas. It's a very painstaking situation, sannyas, because you have to completely sever your bonds with the no family connection after the sannyas, and very simple living, just one loin cloth, and he's having a kamandalu, and that's it. The same kamandalu is using to clean the body, to drink water after you wash it with the mud, or to take your food. So sannyasi does not have so many things. Very simple living. It's very difficult. But why he did? He did not had any problem in living that he took the sannyas. He took it for us so that he can save us fallen conditioned souls. Because Krishna, he comes, he says, become my devotee. But here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself who is telling how to perform devotional service. But people were not listening to him when he was in a Grihastha order. But at that time, sannyasis were very much respected. So since sannyasis was respected, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took opportunity of that ashrama so that people can avoid committing offenses to him, because when he was grasta, sometimes some people were becoming offensive to him. They were offending him, and by offending the Lord, you don't get the mercy, right? You are distracting yourself away from your purpose. So that's why, to save people from committing those offenses, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took the sannyas for the higher purpose. Okay, so let's go to verse 16. Verse 16.
Is Prabhu, is it recommended to in this age of Kali Yuga for sannyas?
Kali Yuga, five things are should be avoided, like cow sacrifice, horse sacrifice, taking sannyas, marrying the brother's wife. These things are not recommended for Kali Yuga because people have degraded in this age. It's very difficult to observe the rules and regulation of sannyas in this age, because sannyas Sannyas means to eternally exist in the sata. It's very, very difficult. So one before taking external sannyas, one has to take internal sannyas. Right? Krishna explains in, I think in this chapter only, he explained, if somebody externally take the sannyas, but if he's internally contemplating on the object of sense gratification, then he's a mithyachari. One should not become mithyachari. One should become real achari, like sadachari. Sadachari sannyasi. So not mithyachari. So one has to internally cultivate the renunciation. Then internally, when renunciation is there, externally it will manifest. But if internally it is not there, externally you take it, then it will just create the nuisance. It's not recommended, but still we do take for propagating the message of Godhead. Because in Grasta life you have so many responsibilities, rules. You are limited. You have only one or two child. But sannyasa life, Vasudev Kutumbakam. Everybody is your children, so you have to take care of everybody. Much bigger responsibility. Anyhow, let's read. Is it okay, Prabhu? Does it answer? What did you say? Yes or no?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Answer.
नासुतो विद्यते भावो न भावो विद्यते सदा उभयोरपि दृष्टवन्तस्तवन्योस्तत्त्वदर्शिभिः. Translation: Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, the material body, there is no endurance, and of the eternal, the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. Purport: I can ask maybe Shridevi Mataji to read it. Are you there? Or maybe Anupama ji, if you like to read.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, please.
There is no endurance of the changing body, that the body is changing every moment by the actions and reactions of the different cells is admitted by modern medical science, and thus growth and old age are taking place in the body. But the spirit soul exists permanently, remaining the same despite all the changes of the body and the mind. That is the difference between matter and spirit. By nature, the body is ever changing and the soul is eternal. This conclusion is established by all classes of seers of the truth, both impersonalist and personalist. In the Vishnu Purana, it is stated that Vishnu and his abodes all have self illuminated spiritual existence. Jyotimsi Vishnur Bhuvanti Vishnu. The words existent and non existent refer only to spirit and matter. That is the version of all seers of truth. This is the beginning of the instruction by the Lord of the living entities who are bewildered by the influence of ignorance. Removal of ignorance involves the re establishment of the eternal relationship between the worshipper and the worshipable, and the consequent understanding of the difference between the part and parcel living entities and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can understand the nature of the Supreme by thorough study of oneself, the difference between oneself and the Supreme Being, understood as the relationship between the part and the whole. In the Vedanta Sutras, as well as in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Supreme has been accepted as the origin of all emanations. Such emanations are experienced by superior and inferior natural sequences. The living entities belong to the superior nature, as it will be revealed in the 7th chapter. Although there is no difference between the energy and the energetic, the energetic is accepted as the supreme, and the energy or nature is accepted as the subordinate. The living entities, therefore, are always subordinate to the Supreme Lord, as in the case of the master and the servant, or the teacher and the taught. Such clear knowledge is impossible to understand under the spell of ignorance, and to drive away such ignorance, the Lord teaches the Bhagavad Gita. for the enlightenment of all the living entities for all time. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So, Ashoka Krishna Prabhu, can you take to slide 36, please? Yeah. So now Krishna is mentioning for first time, like we saw in the verse 15, the spiritual goal or liberation. First time he mentioned, right? That by performing your prescribed duty, we obtain knowledge, which is a prerequisite for the knowledge. And here in this, now from the verses 16 to 25, the vision of the seers of the truth is explained. It is explained, and also the characteristics of the soul are explained. Is this clear vision help us avoid lamentation on bodily platform? Because we lament when we are in ignorance. When we are enlightened, that time we don't lament. So it so Krishna is making very important point here. Like two kind of things are there: matter and spirit. Matter is body, and the spirit is the spirit soul or the living entities. The body undergoes six changes, like I said: take birth, grows, stays, diminishes, and finally dies. And spirit soul is within the body, but is not undergoing these six changes. That I think we all agree on that. And now all kind of opinions agree here. By all kind of opinion or all kind of seers of truth means whether he is impersonalist or he is a personalist. Impersonalist means not believing in the form of the God, just on the light of the God, and personalist means believe in the form of the God. But both are right in a sense that both are the different vibhutis of the Lord, impersonal form or the personal form. So both of them agree on this point that there is something called body and there is something called spirit soul. And here in the purport, Prabhupada was referring to Vishnu Purana, right? How there the word existent and non-existence is explained. When it refers to existing something, which is referring to spirit soul, because it is eternally existing. And non-existent means body, because it's sometime there, sometime not there. So it's non-existence in that sense because it is temporary. Or the matter. Here, uh, when we talk about influence of ignorance, it means uh, when you identify with the body, when you identify with the body, your subtle body is affected. Your mind intelligence and false ego is affected. So there are two kind of ignorance were mentioned: identifying with the matter and identifying oneself with the God. Identifying with the matter so that we can enjoy for the purpose of enjoyment, for sense gratification, either my sense gratification or my loved one's sense gratification, right? For that purpose we identify with the matter. But higher than that ignorance is the ignorance when we consider ourselves as a God. Now we are in illusion, but when we get out of this illusion, we become God. We realize our Sarupa, which is the God. So aham, I am that person. Brahma asmi, right? But that is a biggest kind of ignorance, because living entity cannot become God. We are sample of the God, but God is infinite. We are infinitesimal. God is unlimited. We are limited. God has unlimited amount of energies. We have limited energies. So we are part and parcel of the God. Part and parcel cannot become whole. Like part and parcel means part of the God, but we are not God. So we are part of the God. So qualitatively, we have same qualities as a God. We want to exist eternally. We want to be in knowledge. We want to be in bliss. This is also the nature of the God spiritual body. The same is our soul nature also. But this nature is affected by the conditioning we are surrounded with the kind of body we are in, with the kind of objects we are associating with the kind of persons we are living with the kind of material circumstances we are put into, with the kind of our association with which particular modes of nature, like either we are associating more with goodness or with passion or with the ignorance. Our nature is the nature of the soul is affected, and it comes under ignorance. So by the enlightenment from the God, we can get out of this get out of this ignorance. It cannot happen by our own effort. We have to take shelter of the Lord or His bona fide representative. That's why the knowledge of Gita is there, Vedant Sutras are there, Bhagavatam is there. Because living entity belongs to the superior nature. अपरेयम इतस्तवन्य प्रकृति विधि में परम जीव भूत महाभाव ये यदम धारयते जगत. Apareyam. Apareyam means inferior. Itas means beside this. Anyam. Beside this inferior energies, there is other energy. Now, this is in continuation of the previous verse 7.4, where Krishna explained Bhumir Apo Anal Vayu Kham Mano Buddhi Rahankare Vacha Bhinna Prakriti Ashtada. Like Bhumi means the earth, Apa means the water, Anala means the wind. Sorry, Apa means the water, Anala means the fire, and Vayu means the wind. Khama means the sky. Mana, Buddhi, Mana means the mind, Buddhi means the intellect. So these are all the material energies. Krishna says, beside this, there is another energy. Aparayam itastav anyam. And what is the anyam? Prakriti vidhi me param. That's has param means transcendental nature, spiritual nature, as we see here. The word used here is living entity belongs to the superior nature, right? Or param nature. That's Jiva Bhut. What is that superior nature? Jiva Bhut Mahabhav. Krishna is saying that to O Mahabhav, O mighty armed Arjuna. Jiva, the living entities or the spirit soul, is superior to these material energies, to Bhumi, Apo, Anal, Vayu, like the five building blocks of the life. The living entities or soul is higher to these five. And why he is higher? Because he is exploiting these things according to his desires, right? So we sometimes like exploit this mother nature for our own pleasure or gratification. We're extracting the earth to take out coal, uranium, all these different resources that we are using. Different energy is coming from the earth, right? So so the one aspect to understand is living entities belonging to the superior nature is not the inferior nature. This material energy is inferior nature. Living entity is the superior nature. And another aspect we have to understand is, like, we cannot accept just the energy or the nature without accepting who is the master of the nature. When we say material nature, and I say my nature is like this, that person nature is like this, but it's somebody's nature, right? Then whose nature is this material nature? It's not your nature or my nature, right? It's somebody's nature. Whose nature? That Krishna explains in the 9th chapter. It's my nature. Maya dakshena prakriti, right? This material nature is under my jurisdiction. And when one surrenders to me, then he can get out of the clutches of this Maya or the material energies. Till you take surrender or shelter of the Lord, we cannot get out of the clutches of the material nature because it's durataya. It's very difficult to be overcome. But by taking surrender and shelter of Krishna, we can easily overcome it. So living entities are subordinate to the Supreme Lord. So if they are subordinate, they can take instruction from the Supreme Lord and they can understand it. And when they take this position of subordination, when they situate in this position of subordination, then the knowledge can pass. Understanding means to stand under. Stand under. If you try to stand above, you cannot understand. So you have to stand under the spiritual master in humility and in the mood of submission. One has to approach the spiritual master as if you are a servant and he is your master. That's actually spiritual master. We don't say just spiritual person, we say spiritual master. So if he is master, we are servant. When we assume servant position, then there is a transfer of the knowledge. If you think we understand more, we know more than the Guru, we know more than the Krishna, then knowledge transfer does not happen. So that's why this Bhagavad Gita is spoken by Krishna to drive away this ignorance and to enlighten all of us, not just to Arjuna, but all the living entities for time immemorial, whosoever will come. This knowledge is there for our enlightenment. So we have to take, how to say, benefit from this knowledge and make our lives successful. So we'll continue with verse 2.17 onwards. We'll continue this section of the nature of the soul and what is the vision that seers of the truth are giving. By seers, uh, I think there was another point in the purport. Maybe I'm missing it if I'm not. So seers of the truth, like I said, seers of the truth, I mentioned, I believe, both personal and impersonal. They are seeing the truth, absolute truth, right? We were discussing, I think, week before, how the absolute truth can be understood in the three forms, right? So that's why they are the seers. They are seeing that absolute truth. So they have the realizing knowledge. By seeing means they're realizing. It's not just seeing like just seeing. It means it's realizing, assimilating. So they have concluded it by studying the nature of both matter and spirit. And what they have concluded, that for the body there is no existence. Like there is no existence means it's temporary. And for soul there is no non-existence, or there is no death for the soul. So that's what is this verse is talking about. With that, I conclude my talk for today. If there is a last question, we can take on this section.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna Prabhu,
Hare Krishna.
we have been repeatedly hearing about the eternal essence in these verses so
Yes.
far. So, can we get a little deeper understanding, if not possible today, maybe in next class?
Deeper in what sense? Like deeper meaning of
We
the eternal?
eternal essence. Like we keep hearing about this particular world called eternal, and eternal, the essence of whole these verses. Maybe in a very brief
Hmm.
description about it, or deeper maybe in the next class.
Okay, all right. But briefly, I can mention it's still about when we say, like here, the seers, they have studied the nature of both, so spirit and the matter, right? So they have studied. So
Seer are self-realized souls, if I'm not wrong,
self-realized
right?
soul. Yeah,
Okay,
both are
okay, thank you.
self-realized.
Yeah.
Impersonalist and personalist both are self-realized. But you have to understand within the impersonalists there are two categories: Brahmavadis and Mayavadis. So it's Mayavadi which is a problem. Brahmavadi is not a problem. So Krishna has no problem with Brahmavadis. They just understand one aspect of the God. But Mayavadis is they criticize the form of the God. They criticize by saying that Krishna come under the influence of Maya. There is a problem. But anyhow, both of these personalist and impersonalist, they are self-realized person. They have realized on Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma. There is another verse in Bhagavad Gita where he says, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma na sochti na kangshati. When one is situated on the Brahman platform, he does not, sochti means the desire, and kangshati means he does not lament. So he does not hanker for anything, and he does not lament when he loses something. So they are situated on that platform. So they are not after this temporary material things. So they have very clear consciousness, very clear realizations. And they have studied the nature of both of these temporary things and the permanent thing. And based on they are concluding it like this. What are they concluding? That soul is always existing. Why it's always existing? Because it was never created. It's not that soul sometime comes into being, or and also Krishna, previous verse Krishna was saying like these kings were existing, I was existing. And further when you will go through these verses 17 till 22 onwards, Krishna will further explain the characteristics of soul, like how soul is eternal. Because uh, the nature of soul is like this: soul is spiritual, right? Krishna explains even the size of the soul, the position of the soul. What is the size of the soul? Where the soul is situated. And what is the nature of the soul? Like it cannot be dried by any weapon. So if you think Arjuna, by your weapon you can kill Bhishma and Drona, actually you cannot kill. You are just destroying their bodies. But Bhishma and Drona, the soul you cannot kill, because soul cannot be uh, pierced by any of your weapons. Even if you have a Divya Brahmastra and all celestial weapons, but your celestial weapons cannot pierce the spiritual soul, because your weapons are still material. They cannot affect something which is spiritual. And what is spiritual, that is eternal. Because something which is spiritual, it's never created. Like this material world, it's created and then it is destroyed. But the spiritual world is never created, so it's never destroyed. Are you getting some understanding on this?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
So,
And
in brief, if I need to summarize, eternity means that there was never a time when particular thing was not there. So it was there from time immemorial. Along with
right.
that's the eternity, and then it will remain for time immemorial in future as well. And
Yes.
then
So it's not
and
that when we
yeah,
say it's not that when we say that we are part, and like sometimes we say part and parcel of the God. So this means we are created from the God. Yes, but we are eternally existing also. We are part, but we are both are simultaneously existing eternally. Both soul and super soul. Soul are many and super soul is one. They are eternally existing since past and they will continue to exist in the future.
yeah.
Sorry, I think you were saying more. Right? Did I interrupt you?
No, I just want to say that this is the eternity concept is the important thing to understand rest of the Bhagavad Gita, because unless
Yes.
we are on spiritual platform, we will not be able to understand. And that's the reason Lord Krishna has stressed this throughout chapter 2, and we'll see he spoke almost this chapter 2 has most number of verses, 70, and that reason being he wants to establish this again and again and again, so that it gets into us, like we assimilate that. Because
Right.
last thing which we want to, like, which is there in our heart, this bodily attachment is very difficult to get rid of, and he wants to establish this eternity of the soul. So that's why he takes so many verses, we'll see, just
Right.
to establish eternity.
He will logically, from very different angles, Krishna will explain. Like, if you think the body is made up of matter, so it's a matter, like come from matter, it destroyed. So why you are lamenting now? Why you should lament? Right? So like that, he is giving different logical reasoning also. Like if soul is eternal, soul is never destroyed, then what is the reason for you to lament? And this, if you hear, like, if you attend all these sessions, you'll get a very clear idea. And Krishna is repeating many times. You will see the many of his talks, he's repeating the same thing. But he's changing little bit the angle, little bit the vision, but you will see it's the same point he's boiling down to. He's explaining the spirituality in this chapter. He's also not only explaining the spirituality, but he will also explain the spiritual world in the Bhagavad Gita, right? Because he wants you to understand that you are spiritual. You are not material. You are in the material now and you're thinking yourself as material. But actually, you're not material, you are spiritual. So this point is like a theme. Like this is the crux of Bhagavad Gita. First, Krishna gives instruction of the spirit, then he gives the spiritual knowledge. If you don't understand what is spirit, you cannot understand spiritual knowledge. Then it becomes just the rituals. When the spirit is missing from the ritual, from the spiritual, then it's just the rituals. So to understand the essence, you have to understand the spirit, because spirit is the essence. Spirit is the living force, or the highest nature, like Krishna, like we were reading in one of the purport. So this is the essence of our existence. It's like in the same way, super soul is the essence of the existence of cosmic world. He's there. That's why all these things are floating. So when we are in this body, the body is light, right? When person is taken out, goes out from the body, body becomes heavy. You need four people to lift you up, right? Usually, body become cold when you get out of. So this body is light. It's moving because of the spirit inside. So that's why spirit is the essence. When spirit is gone, everything is gone. Like nothing is there in the body. You cannot create the life just by mixing some chemicals, right? So anyhow, we can continue further. It's already 5:30, and this eternity and this spiritual nature will be continuing for many verses are there. We just cover only 16. We have still lot of verses. So hope to see you next time. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.